Hey folks, welcome back to Indaba Africa. And while I intend to do a video like this, this one comes with a bit of chagrin, a little bit of egg on my face. I looked to see when the draw would be for the World Cup 2021. Let me be clear, the Women's Rugby World Cup. World Rugby seems to have an issue with gender and has decided to call all their World Cups World Cups. Will we do that with the sevens too? We'll just call that the World Cup as well. So we have World Cups every other year and every year in between. No, it's the Women's World Cup, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Women should be proud of who they are, and there's no reason to cover it up. For many of us, we called it the Men's World Cup and the Women's World Cup. But for some reason, World Rugby decided it was time to be androgynous and confuse everybody. So we have a World Cup in 2017, in 2019, in 2021, in 2023. Every 2 years we have a World Cup. Well, we have the Men's World Cup every 2 years. The Women's World Cup comes after that. So the draw was today, the 19th of November. Only it wasn't. It was the 20th of November in New Zealand. Yeah, that's the headspace and timing error on my part. So my apologies and confusion in advance for that. I did intend to cover it live. Of course, South Africa's Elma Smit was hosting this from South Africa, although the draw took place in Auckland, New Zealand, including New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, and as well as Dan Carter and others who participated in it. But let me just give you the rundown, folks. Some interesting developments here. 12-team tournament once again. I've been to the past two Women's World Cups in Paris in 2014 and then in Ireland in 2017, which is where this top comes from. This is the Women's World Cup. Notice it says World Cup Women's. Yeah, that's right. Not World Cup, World Cup Women's. And women should be proud of the fact that they play rugby, and people shouldn't hide it by making it androgynous. I think that's shameful. They think it's making the scale even. It's not. It's undermining women and their talent, in my view. Anyway, the Women's World Cup of 2014 was in Paris and Marcoussis, which is a town just outside of Paris. The final was held in Stade Jean-Bouin, which is where I saw one of the most amazing tries I've ever seen in my life from a Canadian rugby player who was unbelievable. Yeah, anyway, so that was the 2014 World Cup. They decided to move the Women's World Cup because what was happening is that rugby unions were faced with difficulty paying for back-to-back, kind of like we did with the Winter and Summer Olympics a number of years ago when they added or moved the Winter Olympics up 2 years so that it would be 2 years apart for each of those games, which makes sense. So World Rugby has done the same sort of thing. So the Women's World Cup, which had been the year prior to the men's each time, so 2014 in Paris, then the men in 2015 in England. They decided in 2017, 2 years after the Men's World Cup, that they would have the next one in Ireland. And so we're 2 years apart, which makes a lot of sense financially and also to keep the world's attention and perhaps even boost attendance at the Women's World Cup. As we saw in Ireland in 2017, the Women's World Cup was pretty well attended. Certainly the games in Belfast were, which is where I was at, watching the games, including the final between New Zealand and England. And of course, we had the U.S. women playing France. I caught that game as well. Unfortunately, the U.S. did not beat France, so they did not finish on the medal stage. France won to get third place. The U.S. came in fourth after them. And of course, the top winner this time was New Zealand in 2017. So we move forward 4 years later to 2021. The Women's Rugby World Cup will be held in the Southern Hemisphere for the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, in New Zealand. That's right. It will be in New Zealand. And there are 3 pools for the 12 teams. Now, not all the teams have been selected yet because there's still competition to go. We have the final qualification winner, which will be a new development for the Women's World Cup. That is still to be determined. And then we have the Europe 1 and Asia 1 winners, which are yet to be determined. But what we have right now are the top 7 finishers from the previous World Cup. And let's talk about those, plus those who've already qualified. So Pool A will include the champion New Zealand Black Ferns. They'll be first there. And then they're followed by Australia and then Wales, as well as the final qualification winner. So that's your Pool A stage. The previous World Cup winners, the Black Ferns Silver Ferns from New Zealand. No, the Black Ferns, from New Zealand, Australia, and Wales, and the final qualification winner. Pool B will feature the team I mentioned previously from Paris in 2014 had Mowgli Harvey on it. That's the Canadians. Canada's top in that pool, followed by USA, Europe 1, and Asia 1. That's your Pool B, folks. Canada, USA, Europe 1, and Asia 1. Pool C is England, who came in second place, a runner-up in the 2017 World Cup. England, France, who came in third, South Africa, and Fiji. That might be the most difficult pool of all, folks, assuming that these teams are able to keep the same level of talent up. But some pretty evenly matched teams across the board amongst the top 6 or so teams, which includes the USA Eagles. Quite an awesome team themselves. So, folks, there you have it. There's your 3 pools in New Zealand in 2021 for the Women's Rugby World Cup. The dates of the World Cup will be from the 18th of September until the 16th of October. And this should be quite an interesting one. We had Sir Bill Beaumont, the chairman of World Rugby, who was not present but phoned in or videoed in, and he had the following to say: New Zealand 2021 will be one of the great Rugby World Cups. It will be a celebration of the host nation of world-class rugby and women in rugby, and will play a huge role in inspiring more women, girls, and boys to get into rugby. Well, I hope so. It's a great game, and certainly that's the case. He says, today marks an important step towards that ambition. It's the day that the teams and fans have been waiting for with great anticipation. The moment the tournament truly comes alive and the final preparations begin in earnest. 2021 will be a golden year for women in rugby with the Olympics and collectively as we are ready to convert that opportunity into impactful and sustainable momentum for the women's game and the growth of the sport as a whole. Well, bravo. Nothing to disagree with there, Sir Bill Beaumont. But why cheapen the game by taking the title of women's off the title? It's the Women's Rugby World Cup, or Rugby World Cup Women. Why do we change that? We can be proud of women. They have done a great job in improving the game and making it something that girls and boys can be interested in. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who's loved by the press, said that after all, this World Cup is an opportunity to grow the game here, but also internationally, an opportunity to showcase our elite athletes and provide inspiration for girls and boys, an opportunity to break down gender discrimination in sport, and finally, an opportunity to extend the manikitanga that New Zealand is famous for. We are committed to a spectacular Rugby World Cup 21, and we can't wait to welcome all 12 teams to Aotearoa, New Zealand. I see we're changing the name officially of New Zealand to the Maori name instead of simply calling it by its actual name, which is New Zealand. Nonetheless, look forward to a Rugby World Cup 2021 for the women in New Zealand. Should be an exciting time. Another chance to showcase some amazing talent that is in the women's field of rugby. And wishing the Eagles luck, pulling for them. Also, the debutantes this time. We see, for the first time ever, South Africa and Fiji. The South African women, the Fijian women will be showing up in this tournament. Should be quite interesting to see the Fijian women there especially. But congratulations to the South Africans who make it into the Women's Rugby World Cup for the first time ever. Pretty exciting stuff there. But to the old stalwarts, the teams that seem to do repeatedly well, that would be New Zealand, Canada, USA, England, France, and Australia. Good luck to you as well. And we look to see what happens. It should be an amazing time in New Zealand this coming year from the 18th of September until the 16th of October, 2021. Should be pretty amazing stuff, folks. And there you have it. The Women's Rugby World Cup in 2021 in New Zealand. Once again, Pool A, the reigning champions, the New Zealand Black Ferns, Australia, Wales, and the final qualification winner who's yet to be determined. In Pool B, Canada, always tough. The United States, looking good. Europe won, Asia won. And in Pool C, England, the runners-up for the 2017 World Cup in Ireland. England, France, who came in third, South Africa, and Fiji. So that should be interesting and might, in some respects, be a very tough pool with England and France in there. Anyway, folks, thank you for your patronage, for your time, your support of the channel. I hope that you found this interesting. It's part of my Rugby Ascendant segment here on Chris Wide Africa. Thank you for participation. Feel free to leave a comment if you'd like. If you're not a subscriber, hey, why not become a subscriber? You get free rugby coverage here, no charge whatsoever. Smash the subscription button right down there. Be sure to toggle the bell icon to make sure you get notified of updates. That tends to work best if you have the app installed on your mobile or your tablet. You tend to get the notifications there. But if you only are on your PC, you may not get notified. YouTube has been very capricious about how they notify people, and have been changing their standards on a recurrent basis. But I do know that if you use a mobile, you tend to get notifications 30 minutes prior to the video at a minimum. And finally, I asked you if you want to leave a comment, you're welcome to do that. And smash that like button because likes drive viewership. Folks, let me tell you something before I leave. The women's game is interesting. There's a lot of really good talent there, and it can be quite exciting to watch the women play rugby. So let's support the 2021 Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, assuming that the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 hysteria is over at that point, and we can all travel the world once again. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot, and take care.